From the Podcast Detroit studios and Zoom everywhere else, The Making of Champions. Professional boxers inspiring amateur athletes to become champions. Presented by Joe Louis, champion of them all, Bourbon, in association with USA Boxing, Golden Gloves of America, and BigFightWeekend.com. Join your hosts, Tonya Cole and Marquis Johns, with special guests from around the world of amateur and pro boxing, celebrating the legacy of Joe Louis, whose status as the first African-American national hero showed the importance of being a leader and a role model inside and outside of the ring.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Making of Champions. As always, I have with me my friend, Marquis Johns from Big Fight Weekend. How are you doing this evening?
Pretty good, Tonya. Great to be back once again. Today on the program, we are joined by someone who was fresh off of our participating in the 2020 U.S. Olympic trials out in Shreveport earlier this month. And out joined by the number 2 ranked woman at 132 pounds. We're joined by Neida Ibarra. Neida, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. So it's pronounced Neida Ibarra.
And that's on me, by the way, because you announced before we started.
It happens all the time.
And so Chep, in fact, let's start there because my name's Marquis. I get called Marcus probably once a week. How often do you get that?
Every day at work.
Every day. Oh.
It's normal.
Oh, sorry about that. My apologies. But we're joined once again by the number 2 ranked female at 132 pounds, Neida Ibarra. About talk me back first through you going for the Olympic qualifiers. Tell me about that experience, Neida, and how that whole thing worked out.
It was a good experience. I had a lot going on during the time that we were training up for it. So it's like my coach was like, you need to do this, because I went up to a higher weight class because I was having trouble making weight at 125. I just had a lot of stress going on. So he was like, go up to 132. So we did that. And going into it, I mean, I felt good because it was a higher weight class. So I didn't have to starve myself. And you guys know about cutting weight and all of that. So it was smooth, and having my coaches there and everyone's support and everything through the entire tournament.
Well, take us back a little bit more if you don't mind, because I've known that in order to get to that final bout, you went through 2 other boxers, both Nancy and Jessica. Can you take us back to Nancy's fight and then take us through Jessica's fight and then end us up with Amy Mentor's fight, if you could?
Yeah, so Nancy, I think I had seen her before at the Golden Gloves like a year prior. And I think she was a southpaw. So we had seen her before, I think. And just going through the fight, my coaches were in the corner just, telling me what to do. And her fight I was just listening to them. Basically, everything they were telling me was paying off and it was working in the ring. So I just kept doing that. And once we got that win, it feels good. I mean, it feels good to win. So once we got that win, we were like, okay, let's get ready for the next girl. The next girl, I was from New York. And, it's whenever you go into these tournaments, everyone that you fight is going to be tough. I mean, and then you hear New York and you're like, okay, let me get it together. So we were just, prepared for, anything, working on everything. And once we got in that fight, I saw that she was kind of feeling my power, not really wanting to come forward. So my coaches kept saying, okay, that right is landing. And so that was the game plan through the whole thing. And I mean, it worked. And it paid off. And then the last fight, I hadn't really seen her before, so we didn't really know how she fought. Or we watched one of her fights prior, like the night after I won. And I think we knew she like beat the number 2 seed or the number 1 seed, and we were like, okay, like it's gonna be tough. So her fight was, it was a little more complicated just because her style was very different. So I mean, my coaches were in there telling me, yeah, yeah. So my coaches were telling me, you know, what to do, and I mean, it's the things I did in that fight I wouldn't have done like months ago or a year ago, and like that's how much I've grown. Things that they've told me like really paid off in the fight, things that we were working on. We didn't get the win, but I mean, it was, I'm just proud to make my coaches proud. Like, I think I'm proud of them.
Yeah, well, that was a split decision in that fight, right?
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, it could have gone either way. A lot of people told me, oh, we think you won. And I mean, it could have gone either way.
Well, she was really nice to all the corners of the ring. And then, you know, so
she was
maybe that
nice.
had something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they all, that's kind of like their style. They all, well, a lot of boxers do that. And I've never really done that. But afterwards, I mean, me and her talked, and we, you know, we followed each other on Instagram and we talked. I mean, she's nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that you're really proud because the coaches are proud of you, but what are you most proud of with that fight and your performance?
I'm more, I guess, of my performance, of things that I did in that fight, of having a fighter come at you like that. It's very difficult and just very energy draining, of that constant pressure always there. You kind of have to figure out certain things, and I was doing certain things, but I would still get caught. And like I said, things that I did in that fight, I wouldn't have done like a year ago or 2 years ago. And it's because of the experience, because of the things that my coaches were telling me in the corner, specific rules and instructions, like, okay, you need to do this and do that. And seeing that pay off, even though I didn't get that win, seeing those little things that I was doing that was paying off and was actually like making sense, like connecting, like that's what I think I love the most about boxing.
Well, you know, you were quite impressive at number 2, so that's nothing to shirk about at all. And when the ladies approach you and fight you in the ring, they need to say, uh-oh, you know, Neida's from Tulsa, we need to get our stuff together.
Yeah, true.
You are very new on the scene to those of us that are doing research in the boxing world. And there's not a whole lot out there about you. And the earliest I could find is some of your championship wins back in 2018. Can you tell us a little bit about who are you as a boxer, and tell us how you started your journey in the boxing world?
So I started, it was, well, the first time I ever went to a boxing gym, I was like 15. My brother was fighting at the time. And I basically went with him just because, like, so I was in high school and I wasn't making the best choices. And my parents were like, all right, go with your brother. It'll keep you, you know, focused on something. So I went for like a year, non-fighting related at all, just to work out, never even sparred, nothing like that. And then I guess 6 years is how long I've been like actually fighting. I was like 20, 21. That's when I started. I didn't plan on fighting at all. I was just doing it for the fitness. And then my coach at the time was like, you should try it. Like, just, you know, you never know. And so I did it. And once I got my first fight, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you just get that feeling. Cause you know, it's whenever you fight, it's either like your first fight, you know that you're going to do it or it's not for you. So I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. So we kind of kept going. And, you know, here in Oklahoma, there's not many female fights at all. So we would just travel. I wasn't able to be as consistent at the tournaments just because I work full time. So I, like, throughout the years, I haven't been able to make all of them. But we're trying to be more consistent now so I can, you know, stay ranked and stay active and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, most of my fights have been at tournaments. I've had, you know, some fights like in others like Kansas and things like that. But as far as, you know, here in Oklahoma, there's not many.
And so was your first sort of major win, was that at the Golden Glove State Championships, or did you have others prior to that?
That was probably my first major win, because the other ones were, I mean, yeah, because it was like the state Golden Gloves. I won that. And then when we went to nationals, I would consider that I made it to the semifinals, but that's when that just made me love it even more. So I fought California and Colorado, and then New York. I lost to her, and it was close. And at that fight, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna keep doing this. I know I can do this.
So at that point, was it that win or was it prior to that win? I know you talked about the reason why you went to the gym in the first place with your brother. Was that the turning point in your life in which you said, well, here's my direction, here's where I want to go, and you started making different choices? Or was it prior to this win? And if so, what made you make those changes?
You mean when I went to the gym with my brother? If that's when
Right.
Yes.
You said you went there because you weren't necessarily making the best choices, and I don't know what those choices are, but what was a changing point for you in your life in terms of the choices that you made?
Yeah, no, it was because I was like 15, so I didn't go back into the gym till I was like 20 or 21. And at that point, I had I started working like in the medical field, and I was really focused on fitness. And you know, I had just gone through some things that just make you grow. So at that point, I was like, okay, I like what I'm feeling. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling strong. This is giving me a lot of confidence. Like I love doing this. So I think that's ultimately got me to it and to just loving it.
Okay. And I know that on Facebook, you've said that mountains inspire leaders, but valleys mature them. What do you think matured you?
Yeah.
All the adversities that we have in life, you know, just everyone goes through things, and it's how you handle it and go through it. I mean, you can either go through something and just give up at that point. And thankfully, I've had people that are in my corner and help me. They see my potential when I don't, and they're there to keep me up, keep me going. I think we learn a lot from our losses more than our wins. I mean, it just gives you a different perspective on life. It just, it kind of makes you resilient, just to know that you've overcame these things. You have people counting on you, your family counting on you, these people that believe in you. You kind of don't want to let them down either, but you also know that you yourself aren't like that. You yourself can do better and overcome, you know, whatever obstacle it is.
So who are the people in your corner outside of Coach Slump and Coach Skipper? Who are those people that are in your corner?
I have a very select few friends that are always there for me. My family is a big part. Without family, there's nothing. My family is always there for me, always supporting me. A lot of my teammates are always there for me too. Guys that I train with, they're there for me. So, I mean, it's them. And then also just seeing other people that, acquaintances that support me, that are always like, oh, when are you fighting? I want to come watch. Just any support like that is very appreciated. It's just, especially when you're, you know, having trouble either making weight or things like that. It's very motivating because it's like, okay, they're believing in you and they want to see you because they believe in you. So it's like, you can't let them down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think would disappoint you the most? I know that it seems as if you care a lot about what those that support you think in terms of their support of you, but what do you think would disappoint you the most?
Like in boxing?
In boxing or in life in general?
Oh, that's very hard. I would say probably to get to a point that I lose discipline or lose motivation for, you know, doing boxing or doing anything that I love, for, you know, giving up. And I say this, but I mean, I'm never going to give up, but that would probably be something that would be like, yeah, I guess
Okay.
that.
Well, I think there's a lot of us that don't think that you would ever get up because Coach Skipper has said that he's been quite impressed with you and your ability to be able to juggle work, school, and your training. So what motivates you to do that other than not wanting to give up? What motivates you to do that? What's your drive? Because that's a lot to take on, a lot of responsibility. I mean, many of us in life can say, well, I'm either going to train, I'm either going to go to school, or I'm going to work. I can't do all three.
Yeah.
So how are you managing that?
I think it's just the fact that I can do it. The fact that that I know that I can push myself and actually do these things, because my family is a very big part of my life, and part of it's my family wanting more. My family's from Mexico. They came here, you know, the American dream. And part of it is not wanting to let them down, wanting to make them proud. My family, I mean, my parents are very hard workers. My dad has struggled throughout his life so much. And it's like, I have to level up to that. I'm not a quitter. I'm going to be like him and get through, you know, whatever adversity in life just to, you know, to prosper, because I know that I can do it. It's very hard. It's very hard. And I have times where I'm just like, ugh. But I mean, it's just, I don't know, something that I just have to take it day by day and just do my best at it. I mean, again, the people that support me and the people that help me it matters a lot, because without them, I couldn't do it.
I think, was your father at Engine Room Fight Night?
He was, yeah, him and my mom.
I think we have a video from his perspective, as we watched it that night as well on our televisions. We cast it there. But we found a video that actually he took from his perspective. What did he say about that fight? Because what I heard in the background was a dad that was very proud. Oh
yeah, they're always proud no matter what. They're not, my parents aren't very boxing savvy. Like my dad, he was a musician, and my mom, they just never really watched boxing like that. Of course, they know about boxing, like the big names like Julio Cesar and all of that, but boxing wise and knowing what's going on in a fight, they don't know much. But seeing me get in there is what they love. Seeing me hit another person is what they love, and they're always cheering for me. So I mean, they liked it. They liked that. You know, I was throwing a lot of punches, and so that's kind of like what they see. They don't really see like the technique or anything like that. They just see like, you know, their daughter going in there. They don't like me getting hit, obviously, but I'm like, I'm gonna get hit. It's a fight. But you know, that's how all parents are, I think. But they're very supportive.
Well, I think that's some of the best video footage that I've seen on you, was his perspective.
There you go. Hey, skateboard, keep your hands up. There you go. Get that jab in there. Work that jab. Good work, good work. Good work. Stay active. Stay active. Stay active. Do it again. There you go, stay active. Work that jab. Come off that jab. There you go. Come off that jab, nigga. Good work. Good work. Good work. There you go. Stop taking that jab. There you go. Good work, man. Let's work. There you go. Come up top. There you go.
Yeah. You were throwing some serious punches. It was quite impressive.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick break here with the Making of Champions, and when we come back, we want to talk a little bit about the article from Big Fight Weekend and from you, Marquis Johns.
Well, let's say hello to senior writer, BigFightWeekend.com, Marquis John.
Welcome back to the Making of Champions. And Marquis, I want to ask you a little bit, because we talked about what's out there about Neida. One of the first articles that I've seen was an article that you wrote for Big Fight Weekend. Can you fill us in a little bit about that and what was in that article?
Absolutely, Tonya. In that article for Neida, it was about her performance, pretty much being the Tulsa native, pretty much becoming second, coming in runner-up at the qualifiers out in Shreveport, and how she became the #2 ranked woman in the country, mind you, by the way, at 132 pounds. And Neida, I want to ask you about that. What does that mean to you, to pretty much coming up the ranks as essentially becoming someone that no one knows, and all of a sudden, not only are you in the top 10, you're in the top 3. You're #2. So talk to me about that and how amazing that is.
Oh, it's so amazing. I'm still trying to process it in the rankings. And it kind of just shows you how your hard work has paid off, you know, over the years, all the fights and things like that. And obviously when you're able to go to all these tournaments consistently, you can get ranked easier. So I hadn't been able to really do that. So this time that I was ranked, I was so happy. Like, I sent a picture of it to my coach, Danny, and I was just like, you know, we did it. And it's just a really good feeling. I mean, and I just, you know, what comes to my mind is just like gratitude for everyone that's been forming my corner, my coaches, like all the people that support me, like everyone, because it really played a part in me making it that far.
Absolutely. And actually, I'll be remiss if we didn't ask you about this. You're coming to us from our fine folks over at Tulsa at the Engine Room.
Right.
Just talk to us about working with them, Coach Sloan. We've had on the show before Alan Green, David Perez, and Rose as well. Kate, in fact, we had last week on Kate Vagine, who mentioned you as well. Just talk to us about the support that you have at the Engine Room and how they've helped you out to pretty much get to where you are now.
Yeah, it's very supportive of the environment. Everyone here is great. My teammates, you know, they like David and all of them, they help me. Also being in an environment where fighters like that are serious about their training, are serious about what they're wanting to do, have big goals and aspirations for boxing. It's a good feeling because you start working together. It just helps you stay motivated, stay on track, and just not lose sight of, you know, why you started boxing in the first place. I mean, because it can be easy to, you know, like with the dieting and just, you know, things like that. So having them, it makes you work harder. And it's just, we all work very well together.
I can tell that because I noticed that with David and Terrence, for every post that you make or the Engine Room makes about you, they're reposting it. And so I know there's some of your biggest supporters and biggest fans.
Yeah, oh, me too. We've gotten closer, you know, and I mean, we see each other every day. And we're all here doing the same thing. So it's like we know what we go through as fighters. So it's like having their support, and, you know, it's nice having that team that will back you up.
Did you have a follow-up, Marquis, to that?
Yes, just one actually. You mentioned pretty much the one thing I realized about you, just speaking to everyone that's coming out of the injury, Tonya as well, in interviews and whatnot, and I can ask Neida as well, is that you guys are all competitive as all get out. Who's the most competitive person out of the bunch here? We had Rose on. David would say it's him. Terrence would say it's him.
Terrence will say it's him.
Alan will say it's him.
Yes.
To chime in, who's the most competitive person out of the Engine Room?
I don't know. Just from what I've seen, probably, I mean, we're all competitive, obviously but I would say probably David, just because of his attitude and the way he carries himself. I think it'd be him.
So is he going to take you out to eat after that because he gave him that plug?
Oh, tacos.
Yeah.
He'll be like, all right, I'm getting you fat.
Right. I saw your post about, it was like, quote unquote, diet starts Monday.
Yeah.
I have to,
you guys are finding all my secrets.
I have to ask, did you eat the bagel from Ashley?
No, because she didn't take a bagel.
She didn't even bring any?
No.
Oh, that's an
okay.
Yeah, she's my manager at the clinic I work at, and I've been working with her for like 4 or 5 years, and she knows how I am and that I love to eat. She's also gone to my fights, so me and her always talk about food and things like that. But that's, I mean, for all fighters, our diets is pretty, you know, especially when you come off of a tournament. You know, obviously for this tournament, I wasn't like starving, or, you know, I was able to eat salads and things like that. But you're like, oh, I just went through a long week. I want to reward myself. And then you start rewarding yourself, but then it goes on a little too long, and you're like, all right, let me chill.
But pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell us about the clinic. What do you do there?
Yeah.
So I'm a medical assistant. I got, I think 2015, 14, I got my medical assistant license, and I've been working at a clinic. So basically what we do is patients come in, we see them. I work at a primary care office. So like, we'll take vital signs. We do a lot of clinical stuff, like do procedures, EKGs and things like that. A lot of paperwork too, though. It's like 50% like medical, 50% paperwork. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And then eventually what I'm going to go to school for is for nursing. So that's kind of helped me stay up to date on things.
I wonder, when you finish nursing school, will you still continue to box?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good
I
to
will.
hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't
So-
plan on giving up. And like, even if it's not, even as I get older and it's not fighting, like I'm still going to be in the boxing gym. Like I just can't picture myself not doing anything.
You know, that's good to hear, because Marquis and I were talking about before we even got on to this interview, we were wanting to know sort of what's next for you, because you've been pretty busy in terms of boxing, back in February, March, and April. So you've been kind of one of the busiest boxers we've spoken to. So what's next for you, or are you going to take a break for a little bit?
No, my coach Danny was just telling me that I can sign up to in Lubbock, Texas. There's a tournament in May.
Okay.
In May, July. No, it's in July. So I'm gonna do that. I mean, I'm planning on staying active because with COVID, I basically didn't have a fight for like a year, and that sucked. And that kind of just, you know, as a boxer, you want to stay active. So I'm just gonna take every opportunity that I can get. Thankfully, my job is very understanding and, you know, gives me that time off and things like that. So we're going to do that tournament and then just keep trying to stay active.
So for those women that are out there, and it doesn't really matter if it's just women, but for those boxers that are out there, what bit of advice would you give them?
I would give them, like, that are boxing now or just starting?
Both.
Both.
I would say to stay disciplined more than anything, because, you know, motivation will come and go for sure. It's mostly discipline and, you know, the little things that you do every day that will add up, like you're running, or just those simple little things will keep you disciplined. That's the main thing. And just stay focused. Don't lose track of why you picked boxing. I mean, it's, you know, obviously you picked it for a reason. Boxing is one of the hardest sports. So
It is.
just don't lose track of why you're doing it. Make sure that you love it at the same time, because it is fun. You know, you're supposed to have fun and you're loving something. It's not just, you're not doing it just because. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I know that Marquis is a member of the press, and you've had two recent things that happened to you besides this interview, and Marquis is dying to know about it. Can you plug us into what you noticed in your research, what's up with her, with the press?
Yeah, Neida, I saw that you had an interview. I want to say it was with the local Spanish station in town. What were they talking to you about? Because my Spanish is not very good.
Yeah, he was, it was a pretty quick interview. He was just basically telling me, asking me, you know, the usual, like, what got you into boxing? How long have you been doing it? Like, what would you say to, you know, I think he said, what would you say to the Latin community about boxing, or Oklahoma about boxing and things like that? So yeah, that's what we just talked about that. You know, boxing in Oklahoma isn't, you know, that's not what Oklahoma is known for. And so basically just, he was trying to make sure that, you know, a lot of, you know, our Latin culture, a lot of people that watch that news say, okay, like, there's a gym and boxing is serious here and things like that.
And so what did you mention? What did you say? What did you tell the Latin community about boxing?
Yeah.
I told them that they need to try it out. I told them, you know, we have a gym here, and, you know, whether it's just for fitness to get in shape, or if you want to compete, I mean, you know, the doors are open. They can always come in and try it out. I mean, boxing changed my life. So I'm sure a lot of people, not just women, I mean, men, it's just an empowering feeling. There's no other sport like it. So that's something, like, I want to share with others, like, at least try it once, like, because it is life changing. And I mean, it's, you know, it's different.
And tell us about that second news segment that you've got coming out. I think it's a segment called News on 6.
Yeah, that one hasn't, he's supposed to let me know when it airs, but that one, he kind of came into the gym with me and filmed a little bit of my workouts and things like that. And basically the same, kind of asking me the background of why I started boxing. I told him about my brother, and you know, just things like that, how staying motivated and disciplined and, you know, what's next and all that stuff.
Okay. And, you know, there's quite a few, at least our viewers know quite a bit about Tulsa and quite a bit about the engine room. What would you tell our viewers about the engine room and why it's worthy of sticking with it?
It's worthy because it'll change you for the better. It'll make you grow. I mean, you'll learn so many things with boxing: discipline, patience. You'll discover new parts of yourself that you never even knew were there. I mean, it's just, it's a sport that's just, you know, you just have to try it to love it. And I mean, most of the people that I've met, even people that come here to our gym and do the fitness classes, they keep coming. I mean, because it's just a good feeling. It's very empowering, and it's a good environment. I mean, you meet people from all sorts of places. Like, it'll be just, you know, it's all sorts of people here. So it's just a good environment to meet new people. I mean, we're all coming in and kind of doing the same thing, training, and because we all have that goal. I mean, we're just trying to get better.
What have you discovered about yourself?
A lot. I've discovered just so much things. Like I said, parts of me that I didn't even know were there. Parts of me that I had to dig so deep that I didn't even know were there. And it's so empowering knowing that, you know, I have that in me. It's just made me grow so much. Yeah.
You're the boxer that sits on top of a Jeep. Now that's a powerful photo in and of itself.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Because when I saw that, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish I still had that Jeep. I traded it for a Subaru, but yeah, it was giving me like issues. It was leaking. It was like a soft top, so it was leaking, and like,
oh, it's time to go then.
No,
yeah.
you can always replace the soft top. You know, I grew up on, you know, the CJ6 and the CJ7 back in the day.
Yeah.
And you can replace those.
Man, I'm gonna get another Jeep in the future once I pay my Subaru off. But so I went with that. It's like a safe mom car. I mean, it gets me to places.
I got you.
Yeah. So I did that. But that picture was taken on my birthday. I turned, I don't know, 24, 23 or 24. And one of my friends started doing photography. So we went out to a park in Tulsa, and she kind of took pictures and things like that. And it's like one of my favorite pictures. Those pictures came out so good. I haven't done any since then. I'm going to do some more sometime, but yeah, that's the story.
Well, you're going to have to do something pretty quick. You know, now that Big Fight Weekend has written about you, you're on TV, you're on Telemundo, you've got a lot that's coming up with you. Marquis, do you have any last questions before we wrap up for this evening?
Oh yeah, just one, Neida, for you. Because currently you're number 2, ranked currently in the amateurs at number 2. Soon you'll be number 1, obviously. I just wanted to ask you this in general. How long do you think you'll stay at the amateurs?
That's a good question.
I think for a while. I mean, probably until I finish nursing school.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously I'm not ever gonna, like, boxing is one of my main goals, but also my career in nursing is it's a big goal for me that I do want to finish at some point. I mean, I've been going to school, and with boxing, it's hard to, you know, get all of my classes done, take as many classes as I want with it. So it's kind of taken me a lot longer than I would have wanted. But yeah, I mean, people ask me about pro all the time. And as I'm getting older, it kind of appeals to me more, but I'm still not sure.
Oh, okay. And the reason why I wanted to follow up with that is because the landscape of women's boxing now, it's pretty much grown since you first got into it. Do you see that being the same as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, because the landscape of women's boxing, Neida, pretty much it's grown in the last few years. Pretty much since you started boxing. Is that pretty much the case on your neck of the woods as well?
Yeah, I've seen it grow so much. I remember when I first started, like there was a few female boxers that I would follow that I love, like Sinisa Estrada, and seeing her grow. Like, I follow a lot of female boxers, and just seeing them start being televised and things like that, it's a good feeling. I know with MMA, it kind of made it a little bigger for women. But I mean, yeah, it's a good feeling. I mean, having people actually see women that are talented and skilled on TV like the men, it's a good feeling.
You mentioned
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, you mentioned super bad. Who else are you following?
Katie Taylor,
Uh-huh.
Clarissa Shields, obviously.
Right.
I don't know. I follow a lot of them. Amanda Serrano.
Okay.
Yeah, but Sanisa's like my favorite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In fact, is Denise will be one that you like say you start you pattern your style after a little bit by chance?
I try to. I'm not even close to her level, but I love her style because I know she likes Roy Jones and she like has his style. So I just love her for that. I think she's just so technical and just like so sharp. And yeah, I love her.
Oh, okay.
What do you say to the naysayers?
Mm, I don't know. Women are gonna be around. I mean, it's obviously women and men are different, but the thing is, women can do a lot of the things that that men can do. I mean, I don't know, like women are gonna, it's nice seeing women that are strong and are fearless doing things that they love, whether it be boxing or whatever it is that they do. Because you're always gonna have people like that are like, no, don't do this, or you're a girl, you shouldn't do this, or things like that. And it's like, no, like if you're good at it, you're disciplined, and people actually believe in you and people acknowledge how good you are and things like that. It's just, I would say just your work shows, like the results show, you know what I mean? Like I'm not one for like talking and things like that, but like I think my work ethic shows.
Coming from the woman who's number 2 in the division, and this is something that you have reposted on your Facebook page. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So it's been my pleasure. I know it's been Marquis's pleasure to speak to you, champ, Neida Ibarra. Tell us how we can find you on social media.
On Facebook, Neida Ibarra, my name, and then Instagram is, I think it's J_Neida.
What about the engine room? Do you know the information on the engine room so that we can follow you there too?
Yeah, I mean, they're on Facebook and on Instagram. You just go to the Engine Room Tulsa, and then they're always like tagging all the fighters and stuff, and we're always posting it. So you'll just see, whenever you see us, it'll be like the Engine Room and vice versa.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Marquis Johns, how can we read more on Neida and with bigfightweekend.com, and then read more on other boxers that are up and coming?
Absolutely. Just go back to, as you mentioned before, just go to bigfightweekend.com. I'll have all your information there as well. And you can find me on social on Twitter at Weak Sauce Radio. Facebook's Marquis Johns. I'm not hard to find.
Yes, I'm not hard to find either. I'm Tonya Cole with the Making of Champions podcast, and you'll find us here on either Joe Louis Bourbon on YouTube and now on Podbean. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.